Good afternoon, George. My name is Paulina Reed, and I will be interviewing you regarding Ronald Reagan, 1980. How are you doing this afternoon,
Good.
George?
Good. Glad to be here. Getting ready to go to Vegas.
Thank you for taking the opportunity for me to interview you.
Okay.
Okay, so a couple questions. From what you recall, can you give me some examples or, from your knowledge, the principles of the new right?
Yeah, if I recall, it was in the 80s, the term was applied to a pro-Reagan coalition. We had the economic conservatives who formed the traditional core of a Republican Party. Then there was the social conservatives, many of whom were lifelong Democrats. Later, the term also applied to more specific people who took stand for traditional values against the moral decay and decline of the family. That's about all I can remember of that.
Do you remember about how old you were during the 1980s? Were you in high school and middle school?
I was 18 when he was brought in 1981. He was our 33rd president, I do believe, right up to 1989, if I remember right.
Okay. What do you recall from the Iran-Contra affair?
Oh, that was another political scandal. It seemed like it was in the mid-'80s. I don't remember quite when. It was actually an elaborate plan by high-ranking members of Ronald Reagan's administration to secretly sell arms to terrorist nations such as Iran. As the scandal unfolded, it revealed a plot to fund Contras against leftists. It also would blemish Ronald Reagan as well as his presidency. There was a web of lies, cover-ups. Several members of the White House administration made up stories, complex, and to this day pretty difficult to decipher.
Okay. What are your thoughts and opinions, or from what you recall during his presidency, of how he cut the size of the government?
It wasn't long after he was in president. I remember he signed into law significant cuts in the government spending and tax rates. It was a historic turnaround. The project spending by federal government, if I remember, was like 4.7% for the next fiscal year, taking into account inflation. The total cuts, if I remember right, were 5% total of government, something like that. It's been a while.
Okay. Now, do you remember when the hostages came home?
I do. That was a good one. There was just massive media coverage of the hostage crisis. It was a demoralizing backdrop in the 80s for the president race. Carter was having trouble resolving problems, and this made him look weak and actually made him look like an ineffective leader. At the same time, the Republican candidate, Ronald Reagan, took advantage of Carter's difficulties, and rumors even circulated that the Reagan campaign staff negotiated with the Iranians to make sure the hostages would not be released before the election. And then, of course, Ronnie beat Jimmy. On election day, 1 year, 2 days after the hostage crisis began, Ronald defeated Carter. And then on January 21st, after Ron delivered his inaugural address, the hostages were released.
Okay. Religious right. What can you recall from Ronald Reagan's presidency during that time?
There was liberals that believed the inequities of the society could be fixed through intervention by the federal government. There was conservatives who believed that the role of the federal government in people's lives should be small, taxes should be low, and bureaucracy shrunk. Neoconservatives agreed with the conservatives on above, but tend to have strong convictions. They believe that some problems that the government cannot fix as business should be deregulated so they can flourish. That's about all I can come up with on that one.
Okay. What about the supply side economics?
The Reaganomics, I do remember that. According to the theory, the best way to stimulate the economy was through government spending. Side economics, a theory based on belief in high taxes, takes money away from the people and business that the economy needs. So money that would be spent on investments in factories, equipment, and research. The second aspect of the theory involved cutting federal spending to reduce inflation and cut unnecessary programs. Concurrently to the economy policy, Reagan increased defense spending, which greatly increased the deficit.
Awesome. Did any of this affect you during your time from what you can recall?
You know, yeah, as I was, again, a teenager coming up, I would hear my parents, we'd watch the news, and some of this stuff was just really confusing and lots of questions going on. And, you know, I remember conversations of Ronald Reagan. To this day, I think he was a good actor and probably one of our better presidents.
Great. Well, again, I want to thank you for letting me conduct this interview, and have a
Cha-ching.
and have a great afternoon. Goodbye.